Hi, in this video I want to talk about some recent events, and I just want to sort of point the fingers towards that situation so you can, if you're interested, look it up a bit more. And this is about Sweden actually sending troops to Ukraine to lead missions close to the Russian border. Now, as we know, Sweden is not part of NATO. And there's a reason for that. While we always have the discussion in Sweden, should we be part of NATO or not? Still, we practice together with NATO. And for anybody, you can see we are part of the NATO, sphere, but we're not part of the alliance. Why? Because NATO needs countries which are not part of NATO to do some work for them. For example, if Sweden now sends troops to Ukraine, if both Ukraine and Russia sort of agree upon that, I don't know why Russia would agree upon that, but Swedes are open to that as of now. And Sweden will be leading those troops on various missions together with other countries who are not part of NATO. So that's why you need countries which are in the interest field, directly involved in the NATO sphere, but not members. Because then you can send this sort of proxy NATO army. Now, I've been thinking about this, and you see, Sweden produces lots of arms, and in conflicts, sometimes war is horrible. It just comes to you, and you have to defend yourself. And if you don't have any army, no weapons, you need to get those. You need to have the road clear to that. I think countries like Sweden could sell weapons to Ukraine if they want to do that, but not to send troops. I think this is really a crazy idea. I just can't imagine why they would fight or lead missions there against Russia, against Russian separatists, in a war which doesn't concern Sweden, but which Sweden is already sort of involved in through EU. You can do the sort of dirty, bureaucratic and political, exporting weapons and having trade deals and such. But to send troops, it's actually, it's physical. You have these countries' troops coming to that country's border. And Sweden is close to Russia geographically, and I think in today's world we should be sort of making efforts to connect Russia and the EU in a sense. So if they want to support the struggle in Ukraine, they can do it by training soldiers or sending them weapons. That's the most common thing to do, because Ukraine is pretty good off. They have an open border to all these Western countries, so they can get access to lots of weapons and instructors and all that. For example, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, when the war broke out, when the aggression broke out against Bosnia and Herzegovina, people didn't have an army or weapons. So, cities were sort of defended in the beginning with those iron tubes which lead the heated water in your flats, and people improvised and just took what they had. But Ukraine is a different scenario. They have so much border open to countries which will help them. Poland, Germany, the whole EU basically. So I don't see the reason why they should send troops, Swedish troops over there. There's a bigger scheme going on here, and I think it's something interesting to have an open eye and look into, and to remember also that not all countries are part of NATO, because NATO needs NATO countries who aren't members to do some work for them basically. Because when Sweden goes there with these other non-NATO countries, nobody can say NATO is on the Russian border. So I think it's sort of out of the blue. Maybe not for people who have been following this. I haven't, so I've just sort of updated myself on this, and that's why I wanted to make this short video, not as much as a sort of presentation of every dot involved, but sort of just like, hey, look into this, because out of the blue, sort of amidst all the European crisis, now this after 4 years of war on the border between Russia and Ukraine, and they are now thinking about sending troops. And I think for Sweden it's kind of a big loss, because Sweden was involved in Libya, destroying Libya, which broke the wall from the migrants, the people who want to migrate to Europe, just like Gaddafi said. Say what you want about him, and Sweden has been involved in Afghanistan and so on. It has no business there, really. The only thing it's sort of done, it's almost like somebody is sort of pushing Sweden into being involved in the war. But I was really surprised by this, that Sweden is actually open. I mean, they have sort of confirmed, like, we will send troops if it's needed. So that in itself tells you that it's not an independent decision. It's like Sweden is being played here. They are ready to do something if NATO or Russia, whoever decides over Sweden, tells them to do. So they are ready. I mean, if it was a really independent kind of decision, it would be something along the line: Sweden has, together with this and this country, decided to go to the border of Ukraine and Russia and send the troops there. End of it. End of story. They're going to send the troops there in June or something. But you see, and that's why what I think is kind of sad, because it's really like this image of neutrality in Sweden. It's not a neutral country. It's a lovely country. It's a great country, but it's been used because it's one of those countries which plays the sometimes dirty work for bigger interests, which it has done over the last years, regarding attacking countries and also receiving forcefully massive migration. But anyway, I just feel it's kind of upsetting or sad or weird, awkward, that they're actually sending troops, really playing the dirty work or doing the dirty work for NATO as a non-NATO member, and they are ready. They have, said we are ready because they wait on orders from above. Now that's something I won't go into this video on, who's playing with Sweden and deciding what the country will do and so on. But I just want to sort of bring this to your attention. If you're interested in these kind of things, have a look into it, keep an eye open on it, and we will see what will happen. I hope nothing happens. I mean, we know that it's that there's a lot of political games, involving economy, weapons, and all kinds of stuff in Ukraine and in Russia within that conflict, which is way beyond what I can understand, but I know it's going on. But as I said, to send troops there, that's really people with the Swedish flag on their arm next to the Russian border. I think that's really something odd, and I hope it doesn't happen, because that's one of the surprising things for this year. A surprise I hope not to see. So anyway, this was just a sort of notification video about this. If you are looking into the same thing, or you know something about this, share your thoughts. Anyway, take care and all the best. Ciao.